Welcome. So a friend of mine had these amazing character concepts for creatures called bloom trolls, so when he asked me if I would try and make one for him, of course I said yes. I picked this one as the basis for the sculpture, but I tweaked a little bit as I went. I began by making a base out of hardboard. Once I had cut out a rough shape, I put that into my Dremel and ran it on some sandpaper to smooth it out. And I made some feet in the meantime, but I would only attach those later. I then added the smaller circle to the base in order to create a lip around the edge. Then after drilling some holes in the base, I could do a bit of cleaning up. Then I wound some wire to create an armature for the sculpture. And in order to keep that secure, I pressed paper towel into the gaps and soaked that with superglue. Then I could cut some furrows into the bottom of the base, into which I could secure the armature. Once that had cured, I went in with some filler just to make things neat. And then I could start bulking up the armature with tinfoil. The clay I used for this project was Super Sculpey Medium. And while I'm bulking out the bloom troll's form, I just wanted to take a moment to thank any subscribers that hang around for the long durations between my videos. And that is usually the case because I only get to work on these projects in my free time, and sometimes that isn't much, but hopefully this year I'll get to do a bit more. After getting a base shape finished, I could continue refining the form. Using some ball styluses, I formed out the eyes and smoothed those out. And weirdly, this guy just ended up looking like a Tim Burton character right now. But I didn't let that disturb me and headed straight on to creating some leaf pieces which form the collar around his neck. And once I was in place, I transitioned over to more petal-like pieces which would cover his face. I tried to recreate the subtle mouth line like the original creature had. After laying out the bulk of the leaves on his face, and nearly losing my mind because of the repetition of this, I went back in and just detailed some pieces. And then I could add some stamens onto his head, or at least I think that's what they are. And then I continued just adding details and finishing up the head. In order to do this, I pre-baked a lot of flower shapes, and then filled in between them with wet clay. Once I was happy with all of this, I added in the eyes. Only after looking at it for a little while, I figured the eyes were too small, so I opened them up and added in some new eyes. I figured this guy probably wouldn't have normal hands and feet, so for his feet I went with a root-like structure. I used a thin layer of clay with a ruffled bottom to create the base of his coat, which I conformed to the root structure below so that it hung in an appropriate way. I then blended that into the rest of his body. Then I took a moment just to add some terrain, which gave me an idea of his surroundings. I wrapped clay around some wire to form his fingers, and textured them so that they would look like branches. Off camera, I made a selection of different kinds of flowers, which I could use around the base, and I made a whole lot because I just wasn't exactly sure what I wanted at that time. As I was adding things to the base, I was periodically checking that nothing was going to catch on the glass cover, because I have a tendency to get well down the line with projects, only to realize I've messed something up and have to go back and change it. After some final texturing and finishing up, I could start with the painting. I laid down a foundational black and then sprayed white just from the top to pick up all the highlights. This just makes things easier down the line to see what's happening. I also decided to add some flocking to the base, just to give it a bit more interest. Then I went back around and did some more detailing, such as the eyes and wherever else I thought necessary. After that I did a brown wash to get into the recesses, and then a white highlight just to bring the edges back. I finished up the base in black, added some felt pads to the feet, and after a gloss spray, that was that.